Okay, today we're going to try out Satisfactory on Linux. This is what I'm using currently, the new Focal Fossa development. It's not actually released yet, it's a developmental version, but it runs everything just fine. I really wanted to, use the new GNOME 3.36, but otherwise everything is fine. It's got Radeon RX 580. Not much had to be done to add it to Steam. I had to make sure first that the directory was correct. This is running off an NTFS SSD. Got to make sure you run Epic Portal because right now it's only on the Epic Store. And I actually force it to use 5.0-4, which is the latest. I don't know if I actually have to tick this or not, because global setting is already like that. But hey, it works out of the box. So I don't have to mess with anything. I just have to install Steam, point it to the binary, and boom. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. Not having to bother with like wine binaries and scripts and all this stuff. It's become absolutely like amazing. Best part of it is there's no virus scanner. Because Linux doesn't need to be wasting scanning for viruses. So we're going to start a new game here. I've had a couple here. We're going to call this Linux Stream. I like how they skipped the onboarding here. But we're just going to, go from the beginning here. We're going to play the Dune Desert. There is this issue here. Playing offline, this is a bug. With the actual game, is if you load a saved game, you'll start off with like a new character number, and so what will happen is you'll lose everything you're carrying unless you go kill your corpse or something. It's an issue with the actual game when playing with on offline mode that they haven't fixed it. Hopefully they'll eventually fix it, but other than that, I have no problem playing offline in Linux. Now, this is running off an SSD, but I did have a little trouble. Welcome back, 257. Did have a little trouble playing on my NTFS 7200 RPM Western Digital. Whenever you open the menus and stuff like that, there was an obvious stutter being caused by disk reading. This video doesn't play, as you can see, in Linux. I don't know if it's because of a codec is missing or however they did that. That actually does not display. So that's one of the graphical anomalies.
Chart the planet and gather resources to provide desired results and improve your infrastructure. Make sure to report any unusual.
These are the options that I'm using, my video options right here. These match my Windows options in order to get 60 FPS 95% of the time. I average about 100 FPS in Windows. But that's so I could get, 95% of my FPS to be 60 or above. I don't know how to measure that stuff in Linux yet.
Atmospheric entry in 5, 4, 3, 2.
But as you can see, we're averaging about 90 FPS right now, so there is a little bit of stutter noticing. But again, I don't know if that's necessarily related to Linux directly, because I'm not running it on a regular hard drive right now. It's running off an SSD, but we'll find out. I mean, for many people, I'm sure it's absolutely fine. I've talked to people who played this on their laptops and stuff like that, and yeah, there might be a little bit of stuttering compared to the Windows, but they say it's still very playable. So me, I'm very much of like a perfectionist. So, you have to take that into account. I play on a 50-inch hardware calibrated screen with perfect blacks, and I prefer the lower FOVs because I like it more to represent, looking out a window. And I'm also like a photography buff, so.
Efficiency first. Got
But as you can see, other than that graphical anomaly, everything else appears to be just fine. I think that thing is shaking a little bit, but I'm using OBS Quick Sync.
Welcome to Planet.
So we can go see there's a little bit of stutter there.
B, your designated sector in the binary star system of Akicha.
Yeah, I know this map also has a little bit of stutters on the Windows version, so I don't know necessarily what's caused by the game and what's caused by Linux specifically, so be averaging about 70 FPS at the moment.
Welcome to
Onboarding. Yeah, I love this game. I've got, I don't know, like 1,000 hours in it or something.
The resulting materials will
I've been closely following the progress since it was early alpha.
Note: Fixit Incorporated is cost-effective and efficient. We do not waste.
Yeah, but I do. Okay, so
Objective. Please ensure
yeah, so you have to make sure you don't die here, because if you die, it may be almost impossible to find your corpse, because like I said, when you save the game and reload, you start a new character, so you don't have your inventory.
Third objective. Please familiarize
So,
yourself
there was some stuttering when I get into fights. We'll see. Yeah, see, just a little bit. It's not that bad there, but sometimes it can be kind of bad.
for all future objectives.
Yeah, right there. See, yeah, that's what I noticed very specifically on playing on Linux is that big stutter there. But other than that,
Of this creature might shed light on how to
you know,
increase chances of survival.
we're getting 100 FPS average, but it'll drop to like 50.
Accessed in the man.
That's what I wanted to see, the menu. Yeah, so like the menus
Build the hub.
sometimes would cause stutter.
Note: To complete this
It seems to be okay at the moment, so that might be a specific issue when using a 7200 RPM drive in Linux, because I don't get that in Windows off the 7200 drive. So I share my Steam library between Linux and Windows using an NTFS partition, so just to keep things,
Congratulations.
you know,
You have unlocked
simple.
Hub feature, manual
And I don't have unlimited amount of space either,
Hub terminal.
so I need to really adjust my...
Complete hub upgrade 1. Note: The craft bench and hub terminal are essential for progression to the next objective.
What do you call it? Mouse sensitivity. It's actually way too fast. Thought something felt a little weird. I have like an 18-inch mouse pad. Oh, it is at 4.1. Wait, so what's my... Yeah, that's definitely way too fast. Oh yeah, the other thing is I like to turn off motion blur. I usually prefer motion blur because it hides, you know, the gaps in between frames. But this does not compress well using quick sync. That's probably 2.1. I forgot what the Windows had it set to. It may have been 4.1. That's a little bit better now. But it's still really fast. I like to use my elbow. When moving the mouse. That's actually way too slow. See if I can just add the DPI here. Yes, this is much more what I'm used to. Yeah, that's it. Okay, that feels so much better. Let's make a little hub. So we're just gonna go for about a half an hour, I think, so you get kind of a feel. So running off an SSD doesn't seem to suffer any read penalty that I can kind of see. Yeah, now the issue is my mouse is kind of all over the place when I use the DPI setting on the mouse. So, in the menu, see that's way too fast. We will just go to... I don't know if there's mouse smoothing or what the cause of that is. Let's see if we can just fix it here. We'll just go with 2 right now. Yeah, that's a bit more manageable. Okay, and I needed what? Iron rods. So yeah, this update was massive when this got updated. I mean, they changed so many different things. Personally, I would prefer like incremental changes. But update 3 was just the whole game was different basically.
Building workshop. Equipment portable miner. Inventory.
There was a little bit of a stutter there.
Personal storage.
Keep an eye on it. We need
6th objective. Complete hub
to make
upgrades
some
to
miners.
Portable miners require no power and will mine a node until their inventory is full.
So I don't know how to measure, 95% frame rates in Linux. I get the average, which is up there right now, which is 102. In Windows, I'll use CapFrameX to measure those kind of statistics. I've not figured out how to do it in Linux yet. Anybody knows how to measure that stuff? I have an AMD card, not a NVIDIA, so if anybody knows how to do it with AMD, feel free to leave it in the comments section. Well, what I wanted to do was the workshop, that's right. So I needed 5 plates. Get this portable miner going. But they actually let you skip onboarding now. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess if you played a lot of hours and you want to restart your factory, they give you that option. I think it should actually be reserved. You have to unlock it first, I think. Like, you have to actually complete onboarding, I think, in order to skip onboarding. I don't know if it actually works that way, because I have actually beaten onboarding, but just in case it isn't, and then change, like, I had to go through my entire spreadsheet and change all the requirements for all the products, because they changed the cost. What was I missing? It was plates. As you can see, I've played about 60 hours, I think, since update 3, and I still haven't memorized all the recipe changes yet. That's why I write them down. So bad. So we'll see how far we get. We're just gonna cap this at 30 minutes just to give you a feel. But as you can see, I mean, it's great. I think it only runs on 2 cores, I think. So it's dual core, which is interesting. And it only uses up 20% of my memory. Now I got 16 gigs, so I can't remember what 20% of 16 was. Times 0.2. So it only uses up to 3 gigs of memory, basically 3.2 gigs. Not sure why. It just does. Because I suspect like a lot of the stuttering in the game is actually due to the disk reads. Because it does stream assets. It's gotten much better since the days of early access. I mean, huge improvements. Like, they basically doubled the FPS. In update 2, I think I was averaging like something like 50 FPS, and here it's now like 90. So I have videos on that, but it was it was significant. Very significant, the changes that they had made. Yeah, I still feel like it pauses a bit there when opening menus. This can be easily seen when you're running. Yeah, that wasn't too bad. I think it's much worse on the 7200 RPM drive, though. See, look at that. Yeah, whenever you open up a menu, there's something going on, and I suspect it's disk access. So I'm sure that, you know, somebody will figure out what's causing that and provide a solution for it. It's probably something related to wine or something. Would be nice if Epic, you know, created a Linux binary. Like a Linux native binary for their engine. I think last I heard is, you know, they were interested in it. They just have to find somebody. They have to hire somebody to do it. And sometimes hiring can be a bit difficult. Yeah, see, there's still some stuttering going on there. I don't think that's found in the Windows version. There is definitely stuttering a little bit in the Windows version, but it seems to be more pronounced in Linux. But again, you know, it could just be me being a perfectionist. As you can see, you know, I think for a lot of people, this, especially if, you know, Linux was your only operating system.
Feature, copper, new buildings and recipes, which can be found in the build menu and craft bench respectively. 7th objective.
What I want to do is create another.
Connect buildings to a biomass burner for
Get some
power.
copper.
Note, buildings such as the smelter require a recipe to be set. Advice. Automate
I like the 660 FOV. It took a little getting used to, because I'm so used to, like, you know, being able to see the peripheral. But it's like now when I go back to like 90 FOV, I can't look at it because it looks so warped. Whereas this looks much more natural on my 50-inch. Hardware calibrated with real blacks. And when I say real blacks, I mean I'm talking about Black Crush. Because I really don't like being able to like the new standards, that BT 1886 thing that's coming out on a lot of, like, you know, new Samsungs and stuff like that. The issue with that is what they do is because the backlight interferes, and you don't get, you know, 0 blacks. You'll get like 0.13 or something. And so what it does is it compresses the signal and makes everything lighter, makes the shadows lighter, just so you can see it. I'm definitely not a fan of that. Oh, low disk space on file. Oh, geez. Empty trash. I think it's because I'm recording. There's no way I could have run out of 821. Oh, I better make this quick. I didn't realize that was going to run out that quickly. But so yeah, so basically, I've only got a 25 gig partition to test out Ubuntu on. So, and I didn't particularly want to necessarily do a very long video. This was just to let you see that, you know, the game runs just fine in Linux. And it does. Unfortunately, QuickSync doesn't have all the bells and whistles for OBS on the Windows version. So I can't use like dynamic variable bitrate and all that stuff. But if I wanted to just do a regular 6 megabit 30 FPS video, it does the job just fine. So yeah, so as you can see, it's pretty flawless. Just a couple minor issues, you know, opening up the menus maybe. But otherwise, it's you know very playable on Linux. Fly safe.